I heard that wax comes from a magical land full of
And the Oscar goes to Spike Jonze.
We made a movie about relationships and intimacy, and that's what we share together. And so this is for all of us up here, and thank you guys for this.
I don't really have a day job, sir.
They're just a couple of brothers that are making radar detectors out of their garage. They're out of Dubuque. Maybe it's microwaves. I'm not sure, but you call the company's main line. Their mom, Dorothy, answers, and she is so sweet.
Company.
I actually don't know what else to... I don't know anything else about them other than that.
Dude, I'll give you $100 and I'll take out the Benihana's if you slide that 75-foot handrail.
The past is just a story we tell ourselves.
Born Adam Spiegel in Rockville, Maryland in 1969, Spiegel changed his name to the nom de plume Spike Jonze as a nod to the big band era satirical bandleader of the same name. Few details about Spike Jonze's life are as revealing as that one decision. You can trace the arc of his career, from photographing skateboard culture, to making guerrilla video, to shooting music videos for some of the bands that intersected with that scene, to working regularly as a music video director, to starting projects like Jackass, to becoming one of Hollywood's darlings, to helping launch a television channel. Laid out as a timeline of undertakings, you can see exactly how he ended up where he did. Each part of his career's journey is a logical extension of the last, but each undertaking was approached with the same fanatical zeal and careful perfectionism that are his trademark. Jonze's curriculum vitae as a feature film director is astonishingly brief. He's credited as the director of exactly 4 feature films: 1999's Being John Malkovich, 2002's Adaptation, 2009's Where the Wild Things Are, and 2013's Her, a sparse body of work but one dense with accolades. Such accolades include an Oscar win for Best Original Screenplay for Her and 2 other Oscar nominations, as well as 100+ other nominations. Jonze is responsible for some of the most iconic music videos of the MTV era. A 2002 VH1 poll rated Fatboy Slim's video Weapon of Choice as the best music video of all time, and Beastie Boys' Sabotage as number 2. Both of these videos were directed by Jonze. Skate punk, photographer, magazine editor, video director, feature filmmaker, writer, actor, television executive. Jonze wears many hats, but as long as he continues to bring his signature attention to detail, penchant for planning, proclivity for partnership, and propensity for perfection, people seem inclined to let Jonze wear just about as many hats as he wants, and we're all eager to see what his next project will be.
Thanks for joining us for another Director's Cut. I'm your host, Jon Dunning, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Jason Alt.
Hey, thanks for coming out, everybody.
And once again, we're also joined by a very special guest, a returning guest, all the way back from episode 1 of Director's Cut and a few more in between. But that's actor, filmmaker, Tony Walters. Thank you for joining us again.
Hey, thanks for having me, John. And I always love all your nice things you have to say about me.
This for the next 90 minutes or so, 60 to 90 minutes, this is the tale of how you're not supposed to succeed in the film industry. You're not supposed to just be a skate punk to make skate videos, and then you're not supposed to have your friend just kind of throw one of those said skate videos at Sonic Youth and have them let you make a music video for them. You're not supposed to just knock it out of the park for your first film and make Being John Malkovich. These are all things that you're not supposed to be able to do in this industry. Yet one Adam Spiegel, aka Spike Jonze, somehow has done this, and we're all better for it. But let's jump into it. Tonight I am joined by Clyde Mays. Looks like Spike Jonze, so it's kind of on theme. Do you guys have any beverage to help you through this podcast?
I went with my last bottle of Shorts Brewing Batch 10,000. It's a double brewed IPA with mango and blackcurrant. It's our 10,000th batch. They love to do all kind of crazy shit up there in Shorts. So, salud.
L'chaim. Mr. Walters.
I've got Alpha King by Three Floyds. It's a brewery here from Indiana, Muncie. And it's actually like my least favorite Three Floyds, but it's still pretty good.
It probably is my least favorite. I have to go to Indiana to get it, but Gumball Head and Zombie Dust are fantastic.
Yeah. Those two are great. I like Space Station Middle Finger as well.
Excellent. So even a bad Floyd is a good Floyd.
Yeah, that's all pretty good.
It's a solid IPA. Alpha King's not bad.
Perfect. So, I mean, how else to kind of track this man's kind of trajectory? But, you know, we try not to go through, like, we've already, you know, talked at length about the filmography in the intro and whatnot, but we do kind of like Spike Jonze has such an interesting arc that we'd be doing a disservice not to kind of do that chronologically. So let's start at the beginning. Just when he was a young Adam Spiegel, he met up with Jeff Tremaine. I think they went to high school together, shape careers later on. The skater kid back in the 80s.
Doing skateboard photography, and then moved up into right before he shot Video Days. And Video Days changed the game. Like, that was before Video Days, it was just kind of like, here's a skateboarder, he does a trick, let's cut. Next trick, cut. Next trick, cut. Video Days was like, hey, what happens if we just don't cut? Like, if we just keep on rolling? And then you get skate punks doing what skate punks do, just joking around, hanging out with their friends, but also being able to see kids skate in the street and link tricks together and start doing lines. And it molded what skateboard videos would be to come throughout the entire 90s. Everybody took that style and ran with it. And I would say perfected it in certain ways, like the Sorry video by Flip Skateboarding is one of my favorite skateboard videos. And they just took what Video Days was and went, let's just do that. But then they added like that Jackass style to everything where, we're also just going to do really stupid stuff in between each of the video segments. And like just to the max, it's like cranked what he did to 11. And then he countered it, you know, in like 2003 and went, hey, let's make Yeah Right. And just green screen the shit out of skateboards and make everybody float around. like he's just like, oh, you guys ran with what I did. Let's change it again and start making things even weirder with skateboarding.
And it even influenced other skate videos, like Toy Machine's Jump Off a Building.
Yeah,
that was like one of the first introductions to Bam Margera, with Brandon DiCamillo in that one.
Oh, shit!
That seriously hurt, dude. What are you doing?
About that one, you just like, I mean, I don't know if you guys skateboarded growing up, but I skateboarded growing up, and I still skateboard. Like, I'm not good, but I still skateboard mainly for transportation because I'm 30 and I don't want to like break a hip. I actually never really got injured skateboarding until 4 years ago. I bruised my ribs really, really bad, and then I went, you know what? I think I'm done with like the whole doing tricks thing.
Yeah. It's sad to see somebody still skateboarding in like their 30s.
Unless they're really good. When
Even if
really
they're really
it's
good,
different.
Tony Hawk just bumps me out. It's like, what do you do? Get off that half pipe. Don't you have to pick up your kid for soccer practice, you old dick? Come on. He started out just being envious of the creative stuff all of his friends were doing. Because he says, like, all my friends had like skateboarding magazines and I was just some dick taking pictures. You know, so I think what his friends were doing sort of pushed him to expand his boundaries a little bit and go from photography to pick up a different kind of camera.
It's weird how Spike Jonze influenced my life and like so much when I didn't really realize who he was until I was, like much older, like at least in high school, like before I realized, kind of like Being John Malkovich, stuff like that. Like, even though I didn't even really watch Being John Malkovich until today, but I knew of his work. But the idea that he was just like this skateboarder that probably, I mean, he was a decent skater, but he wasn't as good as his friends. And which caused him, I think, to start doing like the photography side of things, which is what happened to me. Like, I wasn't as good as my friends, but I could ride around enough to video my friends skateboarding. And that's what got me into videography and got me into making movies, was because like I got comfortable with the camera so I could follow them around. Like, I don't know. It's weird.
It's weird that you're on the same career trajectory, sort of.
Yeah, I'm just 30. He was like 19 when he hit success. But yeah, totally.
But that's a common theme of his just like complete luck also, where he is like super creative. And he's just like, oh, I just found out how good I am at taking pictures and being a videographer. But also like in video days, you have someone as entertaining as a Jason Lee, and Jason Lee, would go on to become like a real actor.
A Scientologist, yeah.
And that too, but it's just like it just so happened that Jason Lee, that a person that's in movies later on, is in your skate video also making it entertaining. So that's just another common theme that would follow, like would be a through line through Spike Jonze' whole arc, is he surrounds himself, whether he is trying to or not, with just incredible people, which goes up to his first feature film. I don't know if I'm jumping too far ahead too fast, but his first feature film, getting connected with someone like Charlie Kaufman, I mean, that's the best marriage for those two at the time.
I think so. So it seemed like he was. I think people just thought he was a chill dude and like wanted to work with him in whatever capacity he was working, like getting hooked up with Sonic Youth, like you said, and doing that 100% video. And then, sort of launching Jason Lee with that. And then, having people like that video, and just that spiraled into more work. I don't know where he got the balls to want to do a feature film. Like 8 years after he got started, but photographer for a while, but like 91 was like the first time he did like a video project. Yeah.
Right. I mean, 8 years of being behind a camera, you probably fantasized for 8 years. I'm going to make a movie someday.
That's film school twice.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of like paying all that money, he was getting to like hang out with Sonic Youth and shit. Like,
yeah. And getting paid to do music videos for Beastie Boys and Daft Punk and
Weezer. Like, I didn't even know before researching this that he did like the Sweater Song, and he did Buddy Holly. Like, he was responsible for so many of the greatest videos of all time.
In 2002, VH1 did their best 100 videos of the decade, or of the MTV era. I think it was like their best videos ever.
Mm-hmm.
Number one was Weapon of Choice, and number two was Sabotage, and those were both Spike Jonze videos. So he's the number one and the number two. I mean, according to VH1, but still, like, I wouldn't even argue those aren't fantastic videos.
Dude, no, the Beastie Boys video for Sabotage is like a video that inspired, like, I don't know, my childhood, and like me and my friends made stupid movies that were just like that music video. Like, let's just put on costumes and drive around and make stupid videos. Like,
but the Gorilla handheld, shaky VHS camcorder style of the video, it doesn't look slick, but it had that same Gorilla skateboard feel to it. And you got to imagine that was like they wanted that sort of punk sex on it,
That's exactly what it is. I mean, a band like Beastie Boys, they look at, I guarantee those guys are skateboarders. They were just like, hey, that's what we want. We want this to feel like a skate video. Like all the stupid skits you see in video days, like the stupid little stuff with their friends hanging out. Like, we want a music video that's just that. Like, that's,
I mean, the Beastie Boys were in a punk rock band before they were, one of the greatest rap trios of all time. Everything has like a Spike Jonze feel to it, but his style does morph to kind of what it needs to be. Also, like the Breeders' Cannonball, it's just like a bunch of people partying in a room, but it also has some really good imagery, like really interesting imagery with her, like her face in the water and all that. But then he could do this kind of grainy guerrilla style, but then make something so clean looking and so stringent looking, like Weapon of Choice.
Well, Buddy Holly was a year after Cannonball, if you can believe that.
And it's one of the most iconic videos. Like you said, everyone talked about those first two, Sabotage and Weapon of Choice. But Praise You from Fatboy Slim was also like, remember, that was like a phenomenon. That people were doing flash dances in the street. And he even went up at the MTV Music Awards, and he was like super weird, and they did it on the stage. And he's not one of those. He's not like a Sonye where he's afraid to be on the camera either. He's also just happens to be a fantastic actor as well.
It's awesome that he does all these music videos, and he continues to do things like that, because you get to watch his career, like watch him grow as a filmmaker in between each movie that he does. It's like, oh, because there's such a giant time gap in between each movie that he does, but he fills it full of music videos. So you just get to see him be more creative and try out different things and do weird things, see what works, what doesn't work, and then go, okay, now it's time for me to make another movie.
I wonder if like it's faster if you make 10 music videos in 3 years, where you're like, we got a day or two of shooting and then we got to do all this post. Completing a bunch of projects, like running something through to completion. I wonder if that's better training than like doing one movie over that 3 year period. I
think probably it's it's like a career choice kind of thing. Like,
sure,
he probably makes a ton of money doing the music video side of stuff, and it's just an easier, maybe not easier is the wrong word, but like what you said, like it's a smaller time frame that you gotta dedicate to a project, and so maybe that's what he does. Like Jason Lee, for example, as an actor, like the dude's a career actor. You know what I mean? Like he did some cool stuff with his friends growing up. And then, it's like after the Kevin Smith era of movies, he was like, you know what, whatever, I'm just going to do these Chipmunks movies and whatever else comes my way, I'll do this TV show for a while, like just a working actor. Like, I feel like Spike Jonze is kind of like a working director. He's just like, I'll just pick up these music projects, whatever, it makes money and it's fun to do. And then I've got a passion project, so I'll just make this movie with some weird ass fucking stories that I want to tell.
Thing is, like, if you had 3 years or 4 years of training, what would make you a more polished director? Is it directing 12 music videos or one movie over that period? I would think that it seems like his first film was so polished, and if you like watched on set stuff and like heard interviews, he was meticulous. So it seemed like he wasn't overwhelmed by it because he knew exactly what he wanted. Probably because he's planned so many different things.
That first movie for sure, because when say you come straight out of film school, like you're basically just doing theory and then going straight into the field. He did practice for his film school constantly. Yeah. So he worked with different crews, different people all the time. Because the hardest part about making a movie is finding the right crew and collaborating with the right people. Because
he brought in a lot of grips and
right. All the connections he made over all these years, and then he had time to mold and build his crew to make his first movie a success.
Even the commercials he was doing, he was casting skaters in. Mark Gonzalez, he's sitting in the recliner chair, and the recliner chair is moving. That's the other thing where I think there is something to that, Jay, where it's he's churning out so many different projects and figuring out so many different things. And the best way to hone your craft is to do it over and over again and with a diverse level of things. So being a music video director, being a commercial director, re-upping with Jeff Tremaine and Johnny Knoxville to create Jackass, those were all things that kind of molded him into being more comfortable to asking someone like John Malkovich to kind of be the forefront of his movie. Just the fact that he said that, he and everyone that was working on that film said that, who's your backup? If John Malkovich doesn't work out, he's like, well, then I'm not a movie director. Yeah, he didn't have one. He was just going to go back to making what he knew, and maybe he would try again or not. But again,
Well,
just
if Charlie Kaufman had somebody in a holster,
sure.
but like he's right that confluence was really helpful. And the reason I asked if that made him more polished or more confident is I think he's got a really good working relationship with David O. Russell, who cast him in Three Kings, and like they bounce ideas off each other, give each other notes, and they push each other. So O. Russell was talking about how every time he's in post, he has like these periods where he's just like, this is shit. This is never going to be a movie. And I wonder if like having a smaller freak out over a shorter period of time because you're working on a more finite project gets you through that sort of feeling until it's like, oh, this happens on every video. I think it's a piece of shit. Then 3 days later, I finish post-production and it's good, and I get over that. I wonder if like some of the apprehension about just the mechanics of directing, it's something you get over when you see so many projects through to completion. They're smaller, it's like, how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. So so maybe having more success with just like finishing more discrete, smaller projects primed him. Because having somebody who has directed way more films than him, like David O. Russell, is still like, I'm always freaking out when I'm in post, and he doesn't seem to feel that pressure, even though it's not a music video; it's 10 music videos. A feature film's a big deal.
That goes to the point I was making earlier, where if he can't do it, or if he feels like he's hitting a brick wall, that's why he surrounds himself with great people. It's kind of moving far ahead. But with her, he's just like, I can't get this movie cut down. So what does he do? He hires Steven Soderbergh to get the movie to a crisp 90 minutes. So he's not one of those egotistical filmmakers where he's just like, this is my master cut. He's no Zack Snyder. You're not going to see Where the Wild Things Are director's cut on the chopping room floor in the Caribbean. It's just not going to be that way. He's just going to take his time to make each film and to make each project. And if he can't get to the cheese and roll of the maze, he's going to find someone or hire someone that can.
Yeah, and that's it shows he like has no ego about it. He just wants to make a good product, and he knows his limitations. Which,
how funny is that, being friends with David O. Russell? Because David O. Russell and Spike Jonze are pretty much the antithesis of each other. Like, their movies are somewhat similar in tone, but Jesus, like, David O. Russell is just a tyrant. You hear people rage quitting on him. Actors hate him.
Oh, that Lily Tomlin video.
It's very difficult to even create what you're going to do when it's constant a barrage of change this, do this. No, wait, do it a different way. Don't get me started. I'm not as brilliant as you. I can't keep up with you.
No, but we're being very patient.
We're being very efficient?
Be patient with you. So you can
Let's rehearse,
You're
please.
being impatient.
No, I said patient.
Let's rehearse.
I couldn't understand you.
I mean, in front of the fucking crew, when I'm trying to fucking help you, bitch! Figure it out yourself.
Well, I have figured it out.
Yeah, fuck yourself.
Good. Why don't you fuck your whole movie?
For you.
Why don't you fuck your whole movie? Because that's what you're doing.
You're a fucking grown-up. Act like a grown-up. You're not a baby. You're a fucking grown-up. I'm here to fucking help you. That's all I was doing, was trying to help you figure out your business. You don't have to know.
Step
Talk
out.
to me.
Everybody
But like, whose fault was they were both in the wrong in that situation, which is why that doesn't happen on every movie he does. I would think, and that fucking movie turned out so good. It's hard to argue with the results.
The results on both of them are great. It's just they have these different ways to get there. And I think Amy Adams was just like, I just had a kid. I was totally taking a break. But then I heard about her and I read the script, and Spike Jonze, I just wanted to work with Spike. She's like, I had to come off the bench early just for the opportunity to do that, where I don't think that David O. Russell inspires that kind of like, I need to be in a David O. Russell film. Maybe Jennifer Lawrence or something, because she seems to like working with him, or Bradley Cooper. But unless you're that type of person or a David O. Russell guy or gal, I don't see a lot of people, doing that.
I think people really like Spike Jonze, and I think they ascribe positive characteristics to his work ethic. I think he might be fooling people a little bit into thinking he's more competent than he is by surrounding himself by really good people. But
well, I think that goes right back to that Sonic Youth video, like he got, asked to come in and do that, and he didn't know what the hell he was doing. Like he walked up to that camera and didn't know how to use it. and that's just like the part that's like so awesome about him, is that he just was like, yeah, sure, I'll totally do this. And he showed up, looked at the camera, and then looked at like the woman in charge, was like, how do I use this? like I love that. I like that.
Yeah, but everybody likes him so much they just want to work with him, and like he gets that kind of latitude. If you're David O. Russell and you're a dick, you have to be so good at your job.
Right. Well, it's a balancing act, and there's a YouTube video, and I can't remember who made it, but it's about like, do you have to be a dick to be successful? And it's a fantastic little like mini documentary on kind of movie directors and ones that are known to be a dick. And like, do you have to be a dick to be successful? Because
no, you have to be successful to be a dick. Otherwise, that's really what it is. Otherwise, you're not working.
Sure.
If you can't put up, no one's going to give you the latitude to be like, oh, well, we'll bring in a guy who can help you with this. Like you have to be able to put up results.
You have to prove yourself first.
Put up exactly. Yeah. And it's a tough way to go about it. Spike Jonze, I think people just want him to succeed and they like him. He's a chill dude. Everybody who's ever worked with him, has nothing but good shit to say about him.
We might down the road do a Charlie Kaufman director's cut, because he is making film, like he's actually directing now. But just that marriage of those two was just perfect, because Charlie Kaufman would go on to obviously do adaptation as well, write adaptation as well, but also like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
I wish they'd done more than two together.
See, and this is this was my kind of, I don't want to say a hot take, but this was my, I'm going to probably unpopular opinion, for lack of a better term, is I'm glad they didn't, because I think that they worked with each other on two fabulous projects, and they were the exact people that they needed to get those done and to just make them great. But I like that that shaped Jonze into giving him confidence to be his own writer, and I like Jonze written films also. So like Where the Wild Things Are, obviously it's an adaptation, but it's an adaptation of something that he felt so much affection towards because of Maurice Sendak. But Her is like basically just him writing it from a idea he had. He got put on hold, and he had this little interaction with an AI over the phone, and he thought of an entire film. And he's just like, oh, that would be weird. And then that idea just kept
he said there were 30 seconds of elation when he thought, oh shit, and then he figured out that it was a gimmick. But he's like, what if that 30 seconds could last forever? And I think we're skipping a little bit far ahead talking about Her, just because that's really dense, because again, he used his ex-wife Sophia's cinematographer from not cinematographer, the production manager from Lost in Translation. He used Scarlett Johansson. He basically used a lot of the same visual aesthetic. Her is very heavily influenced by Lost in Translation, which was, a masterpiece. So I think it's worth noting, that he was super willing to be influenced by, his ex-wife's movie, and make something that was very similar visually and very dissimilar from anything he'd done before.
Right. I feel like it's his. I mean, that's the one he did win an Oscar for that, right?
For Her,
best original screenplay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which had nothing to do with how it looked, but yeah.
But just as far as like, I feel like it's his best crafted film in a, I don't know. His first two movies, like taking it back to being John Malkovich, it's just a weird fucking movie. And I'd watched parts of it, I don't know, years ago, and I never really sat down and watched the whole thing. And today I sat down and watched the whole thing, and I'm still like, I'm pretty good at reading movies, I feel like, these days, and I do a lot of it, but I still don't know what the fuck he's trying to say with this movie.
I think adaptation was clearly the better of the two.
Definitely.
Because adaptation, I feel like you need to watch it once or twice to really get it. At least I did. The first time I saw it, I was 20, so like, what the hell?
It makes being John Malkovich more palatable as well.
Maybe
it's a perfect companion piece.
It's the same goofy tone, but the way it's it has so many layers to it. You know, and not much of that is Jones, so I don't want to get into sucking Charlie Kaufman's dick too much on this episode. But like adaptation,
we'll do that later.
Yeah, adaptation was such a good choice for a follow-up film.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely the better of the two movies. Also weird, but weird in like a good way. I don't know. Like, Jon is weird in a good way too, but it's just weird. They're tonally different. Like adaptation's it's way more serious. Where being Jon Malkovich, I feel like lets itself be a little bit more goofy in like the whole thing. And I don't know, being Jon Malkovich, just like I knew what it was about, and just watching it. But the part with Malkovich in Malkovich, like I lost my mind, and because I didn't know that was a thing. Like I've seen that before in my life. I've seen the image of all the Malkovich heads, but like in my mind, it was just like a meme. Like when I saw it like happen, I was just like, and I love it. I just love it. I loved it, but I still don't know. I don't know what he's trying to say.
Adaptation was more meta, and I guess that's probably why I liked
definitely. It's extremely meta. Like I tried to explain it to my girlfriend earlier because I was watching I watched both those movies today, back to back, and I was trying to explain adaptation. I was like, well, it's about this writer that's writing a movie about him writing a screenplay. Like I was like trying to explain. I was like, I'm getting lost in myself. It's like looking into two mirrors together. That's what I'm watching.
Yeah, but he's like, he was asked to adapt the book, and then the screenplay he turned in was a screenplay about how it's impossible to do that
because the book was so boring.
And then the character in the movie decides to just make a bunch of crazy shit up, and then the movie gets crazy.
Right. It's great.
But I don't think adaptation works as well if being Jon Malkovich was never made, because it sets the tone. That's like a prequel to get inside Charlie Kaufman's mind too.
I mean, I don't disagree with you, because I watched those movies back to back, and I was like, this is just rolled right into the next movie. Like
it literally is. Yeah.
I have a somewhat unpopular opinion. I don't know that Spike Jonze was the only person who could have directed those two movies well.
And that's what I'm saying. I think Charlie Kaufman's such a force where I'm glad that they're doing their own things now, because clearly Kaufman is capable, and just he has all this creative craziness going on where he just kind of needs to hone it by himself. Where Spike Jonze, that was fucking boot camp for him for feature wise, right? Like he knocks it out of the park twice, and now he can do anything.
Kaufman worked with Jonze because someone needed to take a chance on both of them.
Right.
So they took a chance on each other, because Kaufman had done TV writing. You know, he wrote for the Dana Carvey show and Get a Life, but like those weren't really successful projects. Being Jon Malkovich was like the first screenplay anybody was really interested in making. And I don't know what Spike Jonze brought to the project per se. Everything in my research I came across was like, oh, he's meticulous. He's really careful. He's great at choreographing stuff. You know, everyone loves working with him.
Well, I feel like
he's a good writer, but I feel like if you like, what did he do as a director technically that added anything to the movie? And I couldn't come up with any discernible style, any trademarks of him as a director across the movies he directed, or even the music videos.
Right. I think that especially in his early days, it was more like he played it very safe. So like being Jon Malkovich is like filmmaking 101. There's nothing about it that sticks out from like there's no really interesting camera movements. You can't really read the camera to go, oh, hey, he's trying to say something here. It's mainly just two characters talking, and there's not even like a lot of cuts between it. It's just
a weird story.
Each other. It's just a really interesting, weird story, and that's not Spike Jonze, I mean, but I don't know. I agree with you. I don't really see exactly what he brought to the table outside of, maybe helping create this team of people that were able to put together and like create a great film.
It was him doing it and being like, I just made that film. I have this experience. I just worked with this batshit crazy person, and I now know what to do. I know how to make schedules. It was, like you guys said, it was boot camp. It was also like, if it was Brett Ratner, it wouldn't have been good. Like it was still good, and it was still well made because I think Spike Jonze. But
I think a film student could have made Being Jon Malkovich.
No. That's a little harsh.
It wouldn't have been as good, but it would have still been good because the what's good about it is the script works. What's good about it is Cusack's a goddamn genius.
He's really good at it.
Catherine
He's
Keener
really
had to beg him to let Cameron Diaz read for that part. He kept saying no. He didn't want her at all.
He's like, she is way too good looking. This doesn't make sense for what I'm going for. She's like, just
what
fuck her up.
Dipshit. Like, what is an actor's only job? You Cameron Diaz is not that hot. You give her frizzy hair and she's unfuckable. Like,
I love that. I love that she's not really all that attractive in this movie, and then but you turn around like you see her in The Mask, and you're just like, holy shit, like,
right?
Catherine Keener, the hot girl. Like what? Yeah, that in itself is bizarre.
Catherine Keener made that movie. You could have made Being John Malkovich without Spike Jonze. You couldn't have made it without John Cusack and Catherine Keener.
Sure, and
so
John Malkovich.
Well, yeah, obviously. I mean, being James Gandolfini wouldn't have worked as well, exactly.
But he was great in Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah, so I don't want to shit on Spike Jonze. I think he's a very good mechanical director. He's a good planner. He's good at post. He's a great writer because Her was, that was him. I just don't think artistically as a director he adds a ton.
But but to be fair, that's Being John Malkovich and adaptation aside, because those are very much Charlie Kaufman helmed projects. When he took on Where the Wild Things Are, he was unrelenting about what his vision was for this, where the studios were just like, no,
they call that unfilmable.
Yeah. And they're just like, this is way too dark. This is not going to work. This needs to be a kid film. This needs to have more light. He's like, no, I'm going to film more in the dark now. I'm going to because he knew Maurice Sendak so well. He
worked on the Harold and the Purple Crayon project. And this was Maurice Sendak insisting on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody that works with Spike Jonze or hangs out with him loves him so much that they'll go to bat and they'll be like, no, he's the guy. And that's a testament to the part of Hollywood that not everyone's good at.
Yeah.
There are great directors that nobody wants to work with, so they just don't get work. This is a guy everybody wants to deal with, and Sendak insisted on him, insisted on his vision. And in his defense, he loved it. He loved what he did with a children's book that has 12 lines of, 12 sentences, basically. He turned that into a 90-minute movie. That's in and of itself is tough. So Where the Wild Things Are, he basically had to do a lot of world building, and he had basically very little source material to work with. It was going to be called Where the Wild Horses Are, but Maurice Sendak's like, fuck, I can't draw a horse. So he just made it like a big goofy monster. That's literally what happened.
That's funny.
He couldn't draw a horse, so it became Where the Wild Things Are.
We're all better for it. But the film itself is joyless. It's ugly, and it's just not rewatchable. But it's one of the greatest, or not one of the greatest, but just such a great crafted film. Like it is just such a thumb at the nose at Hollywood, because those type of films don't work and shouldn't work, and it got panned by half of the critics, but you gotta respect him for what he put on the screen, building it from nothing, from, like you said, 12 lines, and just giving just fleshing out all these characters and just making it brutal and relentless. This film is just not enjoyable at all, but I'm so glad it exists, which is such a weird paradigm to be in. I've never had so little fun watching something that I enjoyed so much.
Yeah. One thing I will say for Jonze, I was maybe a little unfair to him earlier, because there is one thing that I think he does really well, and there's nothing in his past to really explain how he does it so well, and that's integrating live action onto something else that's live action, or animation onto live action. The Buddy Holly video is an example. He made that in 94, I think. And he seamlessly integrated clips of Happy Days into a set he built. That's not easy. Doing that kind of stuff is, it's technically pretty difficult.
I think Yeah, I think he has a good vision, but you just got to being John Malkovich was his first movie, and limited by budget, and dealing with an actor like John Malkovich, who this guy probably idolized. Like he was probably just trying to be super professional and make it work.
Sure, sure.
But I mean, and he's like, I think what he has going for him the most is that he's just a nice guy. Like,
But one more thing on just the technical execution for Where the Wild Things Are is that it was so painstaking, such a pain in the ass to make, because he could have just made CG, or he could have just made animatronics, or he could have just put people in big goofy costumes, but he did all three of them. And he did it in a way where it made it look so beautiful, and then he made it look filmy. Like he made it look like shit on purpose. And so he went through all these extra steps to make it look like shit.
More than that, though, they didn't have the voice acting in a booth. They shot it on a soundstage. They all had to wear like sweatpants and socks in shag carpet, so none of their clothing made any noise. And like they built sets out of foam cubes. So they're like, okay, here's a tree. Let's stack 5 foam cubes on each other, so you get the sound of your voice hitting that tree there. So they actually built everything. So they had to reshoot a ton of it. And Gandolfini was coming in for like every couple of months. They'd hit him up. They're like, we did 2 years of post on the movie. So they were calling up Gandolfini all the time, be like, can you come back in? He's like, this shit again. But like he did it because the man was a pro, and he's wearing a headband and like sweatpants. Not that James Gandolfini's a stranger to wearing sweatpants.
Yeah, that sounds like his Sunday getup.
It's just Tony. Sorry, you can't wear the gold chain. It's bullshit. So they would like, he could have just had him like they do almost all animated movies, like the Pixar shit. They're just in a booth, talking into a mic. But he insisted on having them do all the choreography. It's like, if you're out of breath from destroying a hut, I'm going to make you knock over these foam cubes till you're out of breath. And it doesn't take much to make James Gandolfini sound out of breath.
I knew it was coming. No. Yeah. Like this should have been Norm of the North. Like everyone makes a franchise now over something that had like a commercial or like the fucking Ugly Bears or whatever is coming out right now.
Ugly Dolls. Yeah,
that's a toy at Target, and now we're gonna have like 8 movies about it. And he took this thing that was just 12 lines, and he made it into such a just visceral thing that no one asked for and no one wanted, no one appreciated. But I'm just so fucking glad that he did it.
Yeah. He makes stuff. He gives people an opportunity to. What am I trying to say? Like he's like, oh, I like skateboarding. I'm gonna make videos. I'm gonna make a magazine. I like this book. I'd like it if it was a movie. I like this actor. I'd like it if they got to do stuff. I like all my dumb idiot skateboard friends and their bullshit band. What if I photographed them hitting each other in the nuts and made like a giant franchise out of that?
Make billions of dollars from it.
There's a quote from him where he said Johnny Knoxville went from being like completely broke and like about to get evicted to being a millionaire and on the cover of Rolling Stone within a period of like 4 weeks.
That's what I need in my life.
Those guys had so much like that success fucking ruined all of those guys.
Yeah.
Like
he King Midas the fuck out of that group of people.
Yeah. And that's just, I mean, the product was good. It wasn't, but he didn't do anything stylistically to make it good. It was grainy and shitty looking because it was just a bunch of guys dicking around. But like, yeah, he gives people an opportunity to just, I don't know, do what they're good at. And I think people want to return the favor and they want to just let him do stuff. That's why we're like, hey, he's so talented. He's an actor and he's a videographer and he's a writer and people let him do all that shit because they just they let him do what he wants to do because they like him. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I just don't think we should pretend that there's anything like he's the most talented person ever. It's just he is good at bringing teams of people that are successful together, and everything he's done is something I've liked. But I don't think he's amazing per se, but I think he is good at getting shit that everybody likes made. And that's a talent. Let's not pretend that's not. Viceland is great. There's great stuff on Viceland. And making a cable television show when everyone's cutting the cord, making a network, that's crazy. Who would do that? But he did it. It's great. Everything's great. So
he just knows the business and he takes advantage of it. He's a nice guy to work with. People enjoy it. So he takes advantage of that, makes projects he wants to make that he thinks are fun. But ultimately, yeah, there's no necessarily like, I could tell you that, you know, being John Malkovich and adaptation and watching those movies, they feel like the same people made those movies, but that's more the writing, maybe.
Have you seen Synecdoche, New York?
Oh God,
no.
That's
no.
That was that was another Kaufman film.
Yeah,
it was crazy, but it had tonally. Synecdoche, New York felt a lot like those other two movies, but it wasn't even directed by him. Charlie Kaufman directed it himself.
Right.
You know,
and
Eternal Sunshine.
Anomalisa is crazy.
Oh yeah, Anomalisa. Yeah. I mean, Eternal Sunshine kind of has that same sort of tone. That was directed by Michel Gondry. So you have all these other projects that feel Kaufman-esque because they are. There's nothing inherently Jonesian.
Right. Like you watch Tarantino movies, you go, this is Tarantino. Like, and they're all completely different styles of films and weird stuff, but you can still tell it's like, this is the same creative head around this. You put all four of Jones's movies back to back, like, especially when you get into like Her doesn't feel like being John Malkovich really in any way, outside of it just being fairly basically shot with really nice equipment.
Went to an architect that went to film school and said, I'm struggling trying to find the right setting for the film. And she's like, do you want dystopian or utopian? And he's like, I want the colors of Jamba Juice. So she's like, okay, utopian it is. And that he said that clicked for him. I said that he went to lengths to kind of rough up where the wild things are, to make it look bad and grainy and everything, where the antithesis of that is Her, where everything is stringent, clean, perfect. But
the visual aesthetic of that movie was, I think, K.K. Barrett, because if you look at Lost in Translation, which is just a gorgeous movie. Yeah. I took Paul Thomas Anderson's notes from Punch Drunk Love, and he says, fuck with your TV settings, turn the color up until it bleeds at the edges, and like listen to this movie loud. I did the same thing to Lost in Translation. Like, I made the lights bleed and just, you know,
all the neon. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's a beautiful film. And I think a lot of what makes Her look so good was KK Barrett. He just assembled a really good team. And
because as a director,
he deserved but he deserved the writing, the credit for the screenplay, which is really, I thought, the triumph of that movie, because there was, I think they made a lot of decisions to not make the tech look dated. If you notice, like the computers with no mouse or keyboard, stuff like that, you know, they wanted it to not look, because if you look at in the 1960s what they thought the year 2000 would be like, it's ridiculous. It's like, it's like we built a better camera. It's like, we don't use cameras. It's like our phone is our camera. Like,
watch Demolition Man.
Right.
Yeah.
But as a director, like you know, I mean, and a writer in that sense, like he writes a movie that is, you know, more utopian in feel. So you're definitely going to want to tap a cinematographer who's going to do this really clean, beautiful cinematography that's not going to be all dirtied up like Where the Wild Things Are, or, you know, like shot like looking like super grainy and things like that, because you want it to feel utopian and clean and perfect like this is. So I mean, as a director, that's one of the jobs as a director, is assembling a team, and that if anything shows over his entire filmography, that's the one thing he is the best at.
Well, here's the thing, too. If we're just going to be fair and we're just going to basically say that the first two films he ever did was Kaufman films, because they definitely were. They were heavily influenced and driven by Kaufman. We really have two other films to work with that are Spike Jonze films, and he doesn't need to kind of make. Well, I think that he can't just make a film like I love shitting on Brett Ratner. He can't just make he's not Michael Bay. He can't just make a film for a paycheck. He's going to meticulously spend time and effort. And again, if he can't solve the puzzle, then he'll hire someone great or surround himself with someone great to help him get there, to help him get to this vision. But everything is so painstaking. Where you said, Jason, where the Wild Things are was in post forever, for a movie that wound up not even being liked. But another thing that I think we're kind of shitting on him a little bit, where he needs to get credit for, is drawing performances out of his actors, because Her is probably was not an easy task, where he was so meticulous about it. He had a completely different main actress as the role of Samantha. Thank you. He had the entire thing was shot with someone else doing it, but then seeing it with this other person, he's just like, no, this is not the tone I wanted. So we spent the money. He got ScarJo, and then it turned into a masterpiece in what it was. So that's why I don't think that he is constantly churning out films all the time, is because he just can't, because he's too much of a meticulous filmmaker, whether it not be shot selection or whatever, but just drawing performances out of his actors.
He doesn't do that because he couldn't draw the performance out of whoever the girl was who did the voice to begin with. And then he goes, you know what? Scarlett Johansson. That's the voice I need. Like, it's not like she's doing an amazing performance necessarily. Like, I mean, she's
just literally being ScarJo.
Yeah. I mean, and she's good. She has a really nice voice, and I think it works perfectly for the film. But and Joaquin Phoenix is a fucking awesome actor. Like, that dude is amazing. I love him in everything. Like, I mean, he's a great actor. I'm not shitting on Spike Jonze, but I think that he just knows who to bring in to make his project.
Can we shit on Spike Jonze a little? There's a quote from him. He's like, I'm always amazed when any actor can decipher my direction. It's like, they're not deciphering your fucking direction is what's going on. They're just like, all right, I'm an actor. I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to go do it. And then you're like, wow, that's really good. Well, how did you decipher my direction? They're just like, I just knew what you wanted because I'm fucking Joaquin Phoenix and I've been acting my whole life.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, the fact that he got Rooney Mara just to have like a 5-minute screen time, and Chris Pratt in that movie as like a 4-minute screen time.
Oh, and the people he cut out of that movie.
Oh yeah.
He cut Chris Cooper out of that entirely. Who else did he cut out? Oh, Pete Holmes. Pete Holmes.
Yeah,
he cut a lot of people out of Her.
Well, that's also the sign of a good director too, is not being afraid to cut your movie down and cut out things. You're like, oh shit, I got this guy in here. Should I just leave him in here just because I got him in here? Like, that's a lot of problems with it. Like, I do a lot of independent filmmaking. Like, I work with a lot of independent filmmakers, and my biggest pet peeve with independent filmmaking is people who are scared to cut their movie. They're just like, but it's got to be 90 minutes. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Make it 45. I don't care as long as it works. Like, if it works better at 45, keep it at 45.
I don't think there's something to be said where he sat there in post-production, was listening to, and I can't even remember the actress's name. She was in Minority Report and Cosmopolis, the David Cronenberg film, where he was just sitting there in post and everything was pretty much done. And where he's just like, no, this is great, but this isn't the tone. And he gets real weird about it too. I saw where they were doing a panel interview with him and some of the actors, everyone but Scarlett Johansson were up there. And someone asked about that, or someone's just like, so what was the reason why, after everything was done, you replaced her with Scarlett Johansson? He got really, not bristly, because he's Spike Jonze guy. I'm just happy to be there. But he was just like, don't want to talk about that. That it was just not the vision I had for the movie. And once Scarlett Johansson kind of signed up, everything fell into place. So talk about hurt feelings and all that. That's a bold move for someone that's only directed 4 films or 2 films, depending on who you talk to.
But no one's ever said no to the guy or like admonished him or like I get the distinct impression that he's just never run into any hardship as a director, just because he's just sort of barreling through his career full tilt and everyone just lets him do whatever he wants all the time.
Yeah.
Because they like him so much. So like, he's not the kind of guy that's going to agonize over cutting some out of his movie because he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, he's not Saulnier, where he and his wife are mortgaging their futures for one last shot of making films. And Spike Jonze just seems to have the Midas touch. Whatever project he's in, being appointed he's the president of Iceland. He's like, he doesn't have to work. He doesn't have to make movies. He could just, if he needs money, he could just make a cool skate video, or he could make a music video or a commercial, or just run the company that he's been kind of put in charge of. So I don't know. I don't want to not see him make movies anymore, but I totally get if he slows down or just doesn't.
Well, that's what I'm saying, is he just knows the business. So he knows how to make money in this business, and he's a nice enough guy. People like to work with him. So, I mean, he takes advantage of the business. He's a good businessman. Like, he's a guy that was a skater punk that learned an industry, became good at manipulating that industry into what he wants to do, and not in a bad way in any sense. Like, he makes the movies he wants to make. He does the projects he wants to make. If anything, he's like the luckiest dude ever. I mean, in that sense, like, he doesn't have to be a master craft at what he's doing. He makes solid movies that people enjoy. He makes music videos that people enjoy. Nobody has anything bad to say about the guy. He makes a ton of money. I mean,
except me, I guess.
Yeah, but you're not like shitting on him like because you're like, fuck this guy. You're just like you, I think, are maybe even questioning why you enjoy his movies so much. I
know why I like his movies so much. His movies are well done because everybody that worked on the movie was good.
You're just trying to figure out where he fits in it all.
if Jason Ald isn't talking shit about you at some point in your life, you don't have a pulse.
But what did he do?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's fine.
Okay,
that's
what
the
did he do?
business
He
side of things.
succeeds though.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
it's not like he's doing a bang up job. It's not like he's not doing a bang up job in everything he does. Like, he doesn't make bad. If he was making bad shit,
I don't think he would
fine.
release bad shit because I think he has good
instinct.
He knows what people like.
Yeah,
and I think some people make great art by just not giving a shit and doing the spaghetti approach, where you throw a bunch of shit on the wall and see what sticks. But I think some people just kind of have the same taste as a lot of other people, and they just know what people are going to want.
But then where the Wild Things are is a complete contradictory to that
was
statement.
him. That was him just spending all his gravitas, right? Because like that would have ruined a lot of directors' careers.
So he's like, that's one for me. Like, I did all this for you. This one's for me.
Lucky for him, it broke even. I mean, the movie was $100 million movie, and it made like just over $100 million worldwide. But they always say you should double your whatever the production budget is for the marketing. So he might have actually be out $100 million. But I'm not sure.
They marketed that movie a lot.
Right.
It was an Arcade Fire music video for 90 minutes.
So was her.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I like that we have a little dissent in this conversation, but I just, like I said, I think if he wasn't producing great stuff all the time, and if he was just producing good shit, but stuff that's just like cookie cutter palatable, if he's not Tim Burton, like he's the
Russo brothers. The Russo brothers directed the highest grossing film of all time, probably, and they were picked because they're so fucking bland. They're not going to argue with Marvel. They're going to just ignore the listen to the studio notes. They're going to point the camera. They're going to do a good job with the post, and they're just going to make the movie they were told to make. Marvel fires people like Edgar Wright, and they hire people like the Russo brothers because they're going to go yes or no, sir, and they're going to make Kevin Feige's movie for him. I kind of feel like that's kind of what Spike Jonze does. I don't think the Russo brothers are great directors, but I think they make great movies.
I think the Marvel machine is just a studio directed film. Not talking crap about the Russo brothers because they seem very competent and they make great films. But those are when you get to that echelon, it's just a machine, and it's just kind of makes it. It's just a Pixar conglomerate making a film.
The only thing that I give the Russo brothers credit for just being able to handle that much, like that many people.
Sure,
like if anything, but they're two guys also. I mean,
it takes a lot of organization, but they added no artistic flair to it.
No,
right.
But
It's like the movie Avatar. Can you quote anything from the movie Avatar? It's the highest grossing film of all time currently, and you can't think of a single quote from the movie. It was so forgettable. Everybody saw it and made $1 quadrillion in China because they love to be indoors where there's air conditioning and watch 3D movies.
for 4 hours.
No,
Yeah.
I've been having this talk pretty much all week because of the whole
Because everyone's writing these self-important Endgame will never be as important a movie as Avatar bullshit think pieces, and it's like Avatar fucking sucked.
No, Avatar's not a good movie. It was just the first 3D film, so everybody kept going back to see it and experience this new 3D thing that was really cool. And it was cool. Like, I mean, as far as the 3D in that film, it's still like the best 3D movie ever made because everybody just like tacked it on to all their movies after that. Like, nobody was like, let's make a really good 3D movie. Like, Avatar was like, at least they shot it for 3D. But so that's the other reason why that movie made so much money. It was like word of mouth. Like, you got to go back and see this movie because it's really good. I never saw it in theaters, but I jumped on the 3D TV bandwagon and paid way too much money for my TV when those things came out. Yeah. So I watched it in 3D then, and it was still pretty cool.
You got to sit right here and wear these glasses.
Exactly.
Don't look left or right.
What reminds me of. He's like if James Cameron was into skateboarding instead of scuba diving. And James Cameron is a good movie maker. But like, there's not a lot you can look at it from a James Cameron movie and be like, that's his style. Those are his fingerprints.
It's weird that he has like two of the highest grossing films of all time, and like
because he's a studio machine. He's just like a Russo brothers.
Yeah, it's just
but he's a good writer. He's a good producer. Like James Cameron just makes good shit.
Yeah,
you know. Like
now I want
Terminator 2 wasn't like how likable James Cameron is. I haven't really heard anything about his.
I've heard he's a pretty big dick. But
it's crazy because people just let him do whatever he wants the same way Spike Jonze. Titanic came about because he wanted to fuck around with a submersible and look at the wreck of the Titanic.
Right.
And he's like, is anybody going to give me money for my submersible? And they're like, no. He's like, what if I make a movie and I have all the footage of me fucking on the wreck of the Titanic, but I make a movie around that? And they're like, all right. And then he's like, just kidding, I accidentally made more money than goddamn Star Wars.
Yeah, they're like, you made Aliens, right? All right, fine.
They never did anything polarizing,
right? And that's I think like that's where it's at. Like,
he's safe. He's too safe.
People, not everyone loved Her though. I mean, and no one liked Where the Wild Things Are. And those are Spike Jonze 2 films. The other 2 films were Kaufman movies.
Get 2 of his 4 films, they're so late in his career. If you look at his career as an arc that started in 1985 with him taking pictures and ended in 2015, 2013.
He's still like 42 years old or something.
Yeah, like, he's gonna make 2 more movies ever.
I don't know.
I mean, probably. If you're lucky, he'll make 2 more movies.
If we're lucky, I'll make 2 more movies because I'll probably like him. But like, what's he gonna do besides like get talented people together and point a camera? And oh god, is that all directing is?
I mean, kind of. Because
the hard part of Her was the writing. He wrote a great script. He deserves all the, the accolades in the world for that. He won an Academy Award, for Christ's sake. But like, nothing he did as a director really resonated. So I don't know.
Making a film, an Academy Award for screenplay making that film for just being put on hold for 30 seconds is I couldn't do it. I mean, no one could do that. Not no one, but
you could have. I think if you had a good idea, no one's going to give you the money. He got to make Her.
Sure.
And it was successful, but he was set up for success because everybody wanted him to succeed with that movie. He didn't defy any odds by making Her.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess he's the epitome of success. Just be a nice guy and take advantage of opportunities that are in front of you. Yeah. Like when they came to him to make that first music video, if he'd have been like, nah, I don't really feel confident in it, I don't want to do it. I was just shooting music videos, like shooting skateboards with my friends. Like, that's what that video was. Like, I don't really want to do this because like I don't feel confident in it.
History is full. There are as many Pete Bests in history as there are Ringo Starrs, if not more. People are just like, this is what I'm about. I don't want to get any bigger than this.
Right.
You gotta. I just know so many comedians who like really shit the bed by asking for stuff before they were ready, and that scared me off. But also they like got stuff. They got ahead of me by asking and failing. When I don't know. It seems like maybe that's just what you got to do. You just got to do stuff that's out of your comfort zone before you're ready. And
you do a little bit. I think one of my favorite things is success is just luck plus or it's just preparation plus luck. Like do what you can do while you've got the time to prepare yourself for when luck finally comes around, so you can jump on that opportunity. Because like without luck, like you never get anywhere. But if you're not prepared when luck finally shows up, then you're screwed.
Yeah.
But like
absolutely, you got to be able to deliver, and if people want you to succeed. That's a benefit. But like,
definitely,
Spike Jonze hasn't really failed at anything.
I just pitched a documentary today to a guy that I just like. He's like, give me your pitch. I gave him a pitch, and now he's going to be a producer on this documentary that I'm doing. And he's thrown down quite a bit of money, and I'm super pumped on it. And it was just because I've been making stupid YouTube videos for a really long time and decided, you know what, I want to do something really serious in the documentary world. And he was like, let's do it. So like, it's just a little bit of luck. Plus, the 5 years of me doing some bullshit.
Well, and it's confidence too, though, right? It's just like,
oh, for sure, totally.
It's just like, hey, I've done this, or I haven't done this, but I can
it's definitely
do this.
The confidence. When he was like, pitch me the movie, I was like, man, I'm really good at pitching things. Like, that's my favorite part about anything.
Sure,
is concept creating. Like, let me just rant. Like, let me just go on this huge thing and be really excited about a project and let you feed off my passion for it, because that's what I do.
And to pull it back to Spike Jonze, he has that magnetism about him where he is able to just be him and have that draw people into him, whether that be actors that want to work with him, companies that want to hire him to be presidents of their TV shows and web channels, and or anything in between. He just has that thing, and he will sit down and talk to literally anyone. Like one of the videos that I watched in preparation for this was him doing a seminar for a film school, and he was just like, it was like this. It was like a web call, and he was just sitting there and just kind of talking about process, and he just feels very or at least exudes like just thankfulness. And he's just a guy. He's just like, I never went to college, whatever. Or a lot of people with this amount of success would just be, I don't know, James Cameron's, where they're just like these Miata driving, like kind of scumbags, where and I don't know James Cameron personally. Maybe he's a very nice man. Probably not. But Spike Jonze, that was one of the through lines that was very prevalent in doing research, was that that he's just still so grounded and so approachable and still so just your everyday guy because of the way he came up. And I mean, there's something to be said, but like I said at the top of this podcast, this is not the normal. This is not the normal way to become the next Steven Soderbergh or James Cameron or Steven Spielberg. This is the anomaly, and for whatever reason or not, it worked for him. So we're going to kind of put a close to it tonight. But any last thoughts, Tony, before we let you go on Spike Jonze?
Last thoughts on Spike Jonze is that, I don't know, I've always kind of looked up to the dude, even unknowing so in my early years. I didn't realize how much the things that he had done had shaped me, whether, when it came to the music videos, the skateboard videos, producing Jackass, things like that. Like all those things shaped who I became. And I kind of have been on a similar career path when it comes to, making movies and things. As skateboarding is kind of what started it for me too. So he's always been a guy that's inspired me, and I've always found him to be, like, at least from what I've seen in interviews and things, to be a really genuinely nice guy that's just doing what he likes to do. And that's kind of what I've always wanted to do. So, I mean, I'm just a nice guy trying to do what I want to do.
Just want to apologize for anyone that was tuning into this show or podcast. If you're just listening to it and just wanting to hear like a big Jackass podcast, it's just, this is a director's cut. He didn't direct anything. He co-created and wrote it, which it was a very big, important piece of what shaped him to become the successful businessman and film industry man that he was. But I don't know. I feel like we're going to get like why didn't you talk about Jackass? But that's kind of why. But Jason, we did talk about Jackass, but a lot of people I talk to when I'm like, Spike Jonze, they're like, the Jackass guy. Final thoughts, Jay?
Nice people who aren't as talented as everyone pretends they are. piss me off as a guy who isn't as likable and has to work twice as hard as they do. So Spike Jonze pisses me off, but everything he's ever done, I've liked. So good for him.
Does that piss you off too, though? That everything he's done you like?
No, like I don't have anything. The fact that he just like everyone's like, oh, he's such a great director. Oh, he's so talented that he can do everything we let him do and set him up to succeed at. It's like it's kind of annoying to me, but
That's
like
not how my voice sounds. But
I don't. I'm Jon Dunning. Welcome to Direct. I don't have anything against the guy per se, because there's so many people that are like that. Like I can't just walk around mad at nice people just because they have a personality trait that I can't fake. If I could actually, they're like, just be nice. You can't just be nice. You either are or you aren't.
Sure.
You can't fake that, or I fucking would, because my life would be so much easier. Are you shitting me? So like, I'm not mad at the guy for just being nice and likable. And like, what's he supposed to do? Turn down shit that he can't necessarily do well because I might be upset about it. He's just gonna be like, hey, do you want to do this? And he's like, yeah, I guess. And then it's like, wow, you were very good at that, but don't worry, we brought in some people to help you because we want you to succeed. And that's why the stuff he's done has been really good. And everything that goes into making a movie that isn't like, you know, the artistic flair of scene composition and shit like that, everything that goes into making a movie he's good at. So, you know, maybe he is a great director just because he does everything professionally well. He plans well. He's meticulous. He chooses the right people. He chooses the right projects. He made 4 movies, which is why he's never made a shitty one. You know? Some people would have made 20 movies in that period and made like 16 shitty ones and 4 good ones. So good for him for not making 16 shitty movies.
God, the most Jason Alt sign off that we've ever had on the show. That's
what you get from me, man.
That's my boy Jason in a nutshell right there. Tony, where can everyone? Thanks for coming on talking Spike Jonze. Where can everyone find you?
Hey man, anytime. You guys can find me youtube.com/RADEntertainment. We're trying to get back up and going, and things are a little bit of a slow start getting back up there, but I work a lot and it's made things a little bit more difficult these days. But
you have cool work though. Like you work in cool things.
I mean, so. I'm a photojournalist, so I mean I get to just take pictures all day and that's awesome, but I work a lot. It's a lot.
Are you good at that or are you just nice?
I think I'm just nice, if I'm being honest.
Hey, that works. Some people make a great living that way.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Jay, where can everyone find you? Jason Eugene Alt.
Yeah. I'm Jason Eduardo Alt. Jason E. Alt on Twitter, and I got a pin post where I talk about all the projects you won't be interested in. I'm just being curmudgeonly on Twitter, so check me out there.
God, we can't. We have to do a David O. Russell or something that matches the intensity of.
Well, I'm the David O. Russell to your Spike Jonze. Certainly.
So true.
And they have such a good working relationship. This is something we talked about. We messaged each other. I was like, yeah, they have such a good relationship, and he's like, but they're so different. David O. Russell is such a dick and a tyrant, and Spike Jonze is so nice. I'm like, that's our same dynamic. Like, if you don't think those two dudes are successful, why are we podcasting together? So,
you need some yin and yang there.
Yeah, there we go. Tony
the
for
talented one, and John's the nice one.
That's totally fair. You can also find me right here on this very channel. We said doing a lot of other stuff other than this. And then follow this on Twitter at cut_director. You could also follow me personally at Orzov Dunn. I also aped the idea from Jason doing a pin post. So all the things that I'm involved in, it's there, and that's where it'll stay, because that's the point of a pin post. This is the last show that's going to look like this. Major upgrades coming. I don't want to say too much about it because maybe I'm just like Jason said, just nice and not talented and won't be able to figure it out. So I'll stop talking about it. But
Jon does 98% of the work on this podcast.
Yeah,
true that. I only watched 3 of the 4 movies today. Let's be real.
Oh man, it's all coming apart at the seams. Yeah, if you want to listen to this on podcast only, do that on Spotify, iTunes. Please leave us a rating on iTunes. That's a thing. If you are watching this on YouTube, a lot of work has gone into this by all three of the gentlemen. Maybe not Tony, because he only watched 3 of the movies. And we'll let you guys decide which one he didn't watch. But a lot of work goes into this, so please leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, rating on iTunes, all the good stuff. But until next time, we'll see you all at the movies.